Experience matters. You can test experience. That promoter guy, that manager that wanted to tell you about all the things he could do for you, if you didn't check, if you didn't go and test it out and see if what they were saying was true, then you're not going to succeed in this business. You're like... Hey, good morning, folks, and welcome to a brand new year. My name is Steve Rennie, and I am the Renman, and this is RenmanMusicandBusiness.com. This program is called Ask Renman Live today. Sorry, I'm going to turn off my phone in a second. Hey, folks, great to have you back if you're watching here today. If you're looking to do something big in this music business, then you are in the right place today. On today's show, I'm going to be answering a bunch of frequently asked but ever so important questions from some of our Renman renegades that have posted them online today. If you're brand new to our website and you typed in RenmanMB.com today, you probably noticed that it's a little bit different front end that you've been looking at. We took some time off at the end of the last year to start retooling our operation and to try to figure out how to better serve all you folks that are looking to do something big. We did a couple webinars to talk about this course that I developed, which we'll touch on a little bit today. We're in the process of moving our RenmanMB site into much more of a membership site. It's become clear to me that it's a small gang of committed people that show up and tune into our show and that are looking to learn something big. So I spent a lot of time over the holidays trying to figure out how to serve you better in doing that. And we're going to unroll some of those things today, or not today, over the course of the next month or two. And so first I'll ask you to pardon our proverbial dust, as they say, when they're doing construction. And you'll forgive any faux pas or technical glitches that happen as a result of my desire to get rolling. And for better or worse, I wouldn't recommend it all the times, but I do a lot of my doing and learning in public, and we're going to all live through it all. I say it all the time, if you're going to do something big in the music business, you're going to need some help, no doubt. And even if you're trying to do something like a little web show, you need some help as well. So I want to take a moment to introduce you to our fine team here at Renman. I got it there, Joe. You guys on mute. Over there, that gentleman looking very concerned, but he's ever so professional. His name is Joseph Pepe.
Hello, hello.
You're a musician by trade, are you not, Joe?
I am. That is right.
Okay. Although today we have him doing all kinds of new tricks, aren't we, Joe?
Yeah, I'm getting my hands dirty. I'm ready to get.
Is your audio on?
It is. It is on. It is on, yeah.
Nice. Joe's going to be running the show over there. He's going to be trying to contain all this. And again, it's been a while since we've done a webcast properly. We did a couple of those webinars, but I wasn't on camera, Joe. It was just you and me.
We missed you.
Get us both on there,E. Me3. Okay, so we're going on this. There, get it, Joe. There you go.
There we go.
Oh, this is like a small rehearsal here for all you folks that are watching today. So anyway, Joe's going to be taking care of all the business over there. Got some phone calls with some folks that we're going to talk today. To his right is that handsome young guy that I've known for a while now. His name is Evan Rennie. He's got that USC Thornton School of Business shirt on, so you were all...
Music.
By the way, I'm at the USC Marshall School of Business. One of my Renman U renegades gave a present to the teacher, and a fine one at that. So anyway, Evan's going to be presiding over the chat room, so if there's some great questions in the chat room, he's going to field them my way, and Joe's going to try to keep us on track. And again, I forgive any little faux pas that we might commit today, and if anything stupid is going on, if you could let us know in the chat room, that would be awesome. We got a saying around here. Come back to camera one, Joe. We got a saying around here at the world headquarters. You don't ask, you don't get. So if you watched our show before, you knew that was coming. If you're brand new, I'm going to tell you, if you want to learn something about anything, music business, rocket science, whatever it might be, if you don't know, you got to ask questions. And because if you don't ask questions, you can't get those great answers that you're looking for, and you can't worry about getting the no. Don't worry about that. So to help you answer some of those questions today, we got a couple ways to go. First, I want to show you how you can do it in the chat room. If you're watching now, you're in our Renman Live player there. If you're watching over on YouTube, I encourage you to come to RenmanMB.com. There'll be a link to the player on the home page there. Post your question here. Evan's going to do his best. He's got to get out of here to go to school at 11:15. We're going to try to keep it to an hour and change today. And he will tell you. We already got somebody calling in on the hotline. Okay, we got some calls in on the hotline. Let's show them how to do it at the hotline. And somebody picked that phone up. 310-469-9067 is that's our regular phone line, which we forgot to unplug. That's okay. Pay no attention. And you can call us on the hotline, and if you got a question, we'll take that one for all you bold folks right there, okay? Okay. Do we have Mr. Foley on the phone?
We're getting him.
Okay, we're going to get him. Okay, so I'm going to stall a little bit. We're going to start off there. We had a whole bunch of folks post questions online, so let me say at the top that it's unlikely I'm going to get to them all today, so I'm going to try to pick some questions today that have the widest application, I guess you'd say. If I don't answer your question today, don't give up on us. You know, like I say, you got to ask the questions again. It's going to take me a little time to get to them, okay? So we got James on the line there?
Still calling.
You're still calling, okay. This is a work in process, folks, here. And we got our other phone ringing in the background here. Let's see. We got him on the phone. Okay. So, well, as I said, you know, we posted, you know, we're trying to change things up a little bit, try to get people involved and make it easier and easier to ask questions. So if you've been following us on social media or you've been a past member of the site, you know you have an opportunity to ask these questions. So we got one today that kind of spotlights the global reach of the internet and how easy it is to connect with people in business today. So you got him there? All right. So one of our members, a recent convert to the RenmanU world, is a gentleman by the name of James Foley. He's from the UK, and he had a great question, which I asked him if he'd want to share it with us online today. James, are you there?
I am, yes.
All right. James, can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Perfect. James, where are you from in England, if I might ask?
I'm near Oxford. Right in the middle.
In Oxford, okay. For all you smart folks that think of Harvard, there's the Oxford. Oxford University is actually in Oxford, isn't it?
It is.
All right, can you speak up a little bit, James? You got a loud American on the other end of this phone here. Or Joe, can you pop him up a little bit? Joe, I thought you had a great question, James, that I wanted you to ask on behalf of all the people, the many thousands of people out there that I'm sure are faced with the same issue. Your question was?
If you're an artist and you're just starting out in your career, or you've made a new product and you're trying to promote it and you're trying to get attention, is it more important to focus on the grassroots level and building up your following and playing lots of local shows, or is it more important to try and get your music into the hands of the decision makers, the gatekeepers, if you will?
Yeah, okay, that is a great question there, James. And there was a little bit more of the question that James and I had discussed ahead of time. But it speaks to a lot of the questions that you'll have in the music business. It's rarely an either-or scenario, right? It's typically you got to be doing a bunch of things at the same time to get the desired result. You mentioned that your dilemma is that you wanted to put out an EP this year. Talk a little bit, give a little more context to that question of yours, James.
Okay. So I'm looking to make a new EP with a new lineup of a band in the next few months. And once the songs are finished, it's a case of, you know, where do you pitch them and who do you pitch them to and all that kind of things. And it's trying to kind of get it straight in my head where to go next, if that makes sense. And we're going to use the music to try and book gigs and things, but it's difficult to get kind of anything that's not, you know, a local show that are, you know, possibly, you know, poorly paid or not paid, and trying to get good festival slots and all these kind of things, and trying to, you know, make a bit of a splash without some help. And so my first thought is always trying to get someone on side, like you said, build a team, trying to get someone, you know, in your corner who can help out with these things. And it could be that that's promotion or management, you know, or a booking agent or anything. But I always think that would be an easier way to go if you can get, you know, your music into the hands of these people.
Yeah. Well, let me say this, you know, because they really are this, you get this constant chicken and the egg thing, right? You're a musician. The most important part of the music business, okay, without which we don't have a business, is the music, right? So that
Sure.
music that you make, James, is really the calling card for everything that follows, right? So
Yeah.
if you're looking to book a gig, right, and you have a record, whether it's an EP, physical or otherwise, it suggests to that booker, for example, that you're a little bit more serious about it, right? And if you've taken the time to put some visuals together with that music, right? You're going to present that to not only club bookers, you're going to present that to A&R people and everybody else. So having, you know, some visuals to go with it, having a website where they can find you, suggests that you're serious about it, right?
Okay.
That music will be the thing that attracts the attention or has the opportunity to attract attention from magazines, the blogs, the radio places, all the things you need. We're going to talk a little bit more about radio later with one of my radio promotion buddies, right? So those are all things that you can control and don't cost a lot of money today if you're clever about it, right? So you need all of that stuff to go out and build that buzz and attract the attention, right? So if the question is about should I be approaching those music professionals, the answer is yes, right? But when you do approach those people, if you put together all these pieces, James, and you've made presentation, you know, the great presentation part of it, it's going to help you do that, right, with everybody.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
So when you're booking shows, you know, everybody has a little bit different agenda. When you're just starting off trying to get those first few shows, you're not going to get paid anything. You're going to have to beg somebody. So it means being relentless with a club booker. Maybe it means making friends with that club booker. Maybe it means making friends with a band that's already got a gig and they managed to get you on that show. However it starts, what those bookers want more than buzz and, you know, and Facebook lights and all that, they want you to be able to draw tickets, and in a perfect world, they want you to be able to draw people that are going to drink because that's how they make their money, right?
Sure.
We'll talk a little bit more about this whole idea of major labels and so forth, but if you want your music to be heard widely and you want it to be available widely and be able to stand out from all the other people that are going to do that, you need that marketing and promotion. You need help on the distribution and sales side. You need help getting it on the radio. And that typically means going to a record label, right? And so maybe over the last couple of months, you know, you bought our course, right? And I don't, you probably bought it ahead of us having the half-hour free Skype call, which I'm going to give you one here, James, for dialing in today, okay? Where we can talk about it. But so many of the artists that I talk to, decide they're just going to do it indie. They're not even going to make their case to real labels. They've decided, I'm going to do it indie. And the truth is, doing it indie is the toughest, almost impossible way to do it. What you described in your note is trying to get some buzz going, trying to build a little bit of a local following. When you do present to those labels, they're all looking for signs that something could happen, right? And so, but you need to ask the question, just like we talked about at the top. So the answer to your question is you got to do both, James, right? But if I had to say to somebody, what should you focus on most? I'd say focus on getting the music first, right? Once you have some great music, spend some time on presentation, okay, so that it all looks great, because that is what you're going to be taking to everybody, right? Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
All right, so here's what I want you to do. You send me an email. I'm going to set you up where you can go and set up a 30-minute Skype call so we can talk some more about this in detail. But hopefully that helps everybody out there.
Excellent, Steve. Thank you.
And James, I want to thank you for supporting this, and I want to say kudos for having the courage to be one of these music renegades out there and taking the path less traveled.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. Thanks for calling, man.
Cheers, now. Speak again.
All right, perfect. All right, how are we doing over there, Joe? Everything seems to be working properly, Ev?
Yep.
Okay, good stuff. Any questions in the chat room yet?
Not yet.
Okay, good. All right, not good, but, you know, we've got plenty of stuff to talk about here today. Well, Joe, lots of folks have asked me over the holidays, what if I can't see your course or I can't see your show, I'm not there on time? We got a couple ways to listen. One of them is on SoundCloud, Joe. I'll show them the link there. Okay, if you want to keep in touch with us and you would like to do it on the go, on the plane, or in your car where I do a lot of listening. You can track us down on iTunes and SoundCloud. You got to type in Renman Live on both accounts, and you will be able to find us there. All right? Okay, I want to talk about another question that comes up frequently, folks. And again, I'll apologize to all the folks whose questions I won't get to today, but we're going to be here all year, so don't go to pieces if I don't get it covered today. I'll try to come back to you with some of the emails on some of this stuff as well. Let's talk about Spotify. One of the most hotly debated topics in today's music business is this impact of the streaming services and whether or not those services, Spotify being the biggest one, are good for artists. And people get lost in this old conversation too often, particularly indie artists, about whether they're going to license their music to Spotify because Spotify is going to screw them, right? So we had a couple questions in regard to Spotify. I want to post them up there, and then I'm going to answer them for you. Joe, the first question was, are streaming services like Spotify providing adequate revenue in lieu of direct album sales? Let me talk to that one first, Joe. The way this works, folks, is that when you sign a record deal, if you take my advice and you wind up getting involved with a proper record company that knows how to market and promote music, then you're going to sign a record deal with them. The deal that Spotify has, by and large, is with record labels, right? So if some of that money that's being generated through streaming services is not making it to the artist's pocket, the real, I don't want to say culprit, that puts some blame. It has to do with the record contract, because that money goes to the label, and then in turn they have to pay it to the artist. So when you're looking for any villains, and we're going to talk about that whole idea of villains a lot over the course of the year, right? Hard to imagine for me that Spotify is one of them. Here's some facts. The streaming revenues out there are the fastest growing part of the record business, and it's pretty simple to figure that out. People like Spotify. They like streaming their music. They like taking their music with them wherever they go, right? So that's why Spotify's working. It's not a plot. It's not some conspiracy. It's because consumers want that, okay? So with regard to how the money gets split up, that's an issue between you and the label, and we'll talk some more about that over the course of the year when we talk about record contracts and so forth, okay? Show me that second question, Joe. Here's the second part. It was from William, who said, when marketing a new release, just like we were talking about with James there a minute ago, would you encourage an artist to release the album on streaming services or encourage them to avoid that until they get a greater financial return from the release? William, I love the question, but again, it suggests to me that people just don't really understand the issues that are a part of this, right? But to answer your question, would I recommend that you release that album to streaming services? Abso-freaking-lutely I would, and here's why, okay? When you're sitting around trying to figure out what the greatest risks are in your career, too often people are sitting there going, I don't want to risk getting screwed by a label. I don't want to risk getting screwed by Spotify, right? And it sounds like it's looming right there on the horizon. Let me tell you what your greatest risk is as an artist, that your music is never, ever heard, okay? That's the risk that should keep you up at night, not wondering whether you're going to get screwed by your record label or screwed by your Spotify partner or Apple or whoever it might be. If you have great music, and that great music gets heard around the world, big time. We're talking Adele big time. We're talking Swift big time. We're talking about Justin Bieber and Skrillex big time, right? I'm here to tell you that that success will attract the attention of people that will help you get paid, okay? So when you're thinking about Spotify, record deals, understand that your greatest fear should be that nobody hears the great music you make, okay? That's Spotify. Any questions in the chat room there, Ev? Yeah. Okay, fire away, my friend. Is Evan mic'd up?
Yep.
Good. How are we doing today, folks? All right.
Yeah, so the question is, what are some networking tips for a band that are not based in an area that, well, okay. that are based in an area that does not have a very active music scene?
What are some networking techniques? Well, you're going to have to do a lot more reaching out. It doesn't sound like you're going to be meeting any of your favorite A&R folks or managers at the local Starbucks. I think you already know the answers. First, you got to identify who it is that you need to connect with, right? So if you're thinking about, I want to get a publishing deal, that's the idea, right? The reality is, who might those people be, right? And so you'll need to identify those people. Plenty of ways to just Google it online today, folks. Greatest tool in the world. You can find out anything online. And yet so many people ask me these questions like Google had never been invented. That's where I would start, right? If you're looking at record labels, same story. If you're looking to connect with gigs, okay, then you need to do some homework. And we've got some tips here, and you watch our show, and I'll give you some ideas how to find all this stuff. There's plenty of resources out on the web now that allow you to do something. If you wanted to book gigs, you could go to one of my favorite sites, which is called IndieOnTheMove.com, which is a database of all the clubs around America. So if you're looking to connect there, then you're going to have to reach out. In the old days, it was all done by phone or actually typing a letter. Today, you can do it by email. Much more effective. You can get all of your information into one place. We talked about with James about getting your music, getting your visuals, getting your story onto a website so that when you reach out to somebody, they have everything they need to know on that email. And I'm 60 years old. I'm here to tell you, I don't want to get an EPK press kit. Don't waste your freaking time sending me your CD and all that shit. Send me a link to your website where I can get my hands on all of that stuff. Evan, we've got a thing about reaching out. Lots of people are going to have to write emails, and I found from receiving so many of those, most folks do not know how to approach people in the business. So we're going to put it in there. Have you got it? We have a PDF. It's called a Tips from the Pro that we've done, that we've had around. If you haven't seen it, we're going to make it available. Can you put that in the broadcast, Ev? Okay. If you download that PDF, it'll give you some tips on how to write emails to people in the music business in a way that will actually encourage them to respond to you. So, long question. We're going to talk about networking a lot here. What was his name? Did I ask the question?
There wasn't a name on it.
Okay, well, whoever asked that question, we're going to talk about networking a lot, and you can start some of your networking next week by watching this show here. We're going to have one of the top A&R record producers in the business. His name is Ron Fair. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. He's going to be on the show. When you're done with the show today, I want to encourage you to go through every one of those Renman Live webcasts we've done where we've had some of the smartest, most talented, most successful people in this business, and if you were on the ball, you could have called them up, okay, and talk to them the same way you could call and talk to me today, and yet nobody's calling, okay? So you're failing the freaking networking test right now. Just so you think it's not crazy and impossible, one of our members who wound up taking our course, who was a viewer of Renman Live, connected with one of the biggest managers in the business by the name of Sarah Stennett, asked her for a meeting by calling in on the show, actually had that meeting with her, and now Liz Quintanilla, who came from the U.S. Marine Corps, she's now working in the record business for one of the top management firms in the world because she took my advice and she asked a question and she got the answer she wanted. So that's how you network, okay? Hopefully that answers your question there. Sorry for getting all riled up on about my, sixth cup of coffee, Joe? God damn, back in the 80s, we used to do the marching powder, but this is actually worse. Lit up here. Okay, Evan, you got a question? You're just roaming around.
I'm just checking the light.
Evan's just checking live. We got a professional team here. Okay. A couple of other questions I wanted to talk about. This notion of finding a manager is one of the most important, and keep me on track to get to Plen there, Pepe. Finding a great manager is one of the most important decisions you'll make as an artist. It's also one of the most difficult things to do. And I find that so many artists are so desperate to find somebody, to find a manager, to get their, that responsibility off their back. They're so desperate that they check their head at the door. And I'm going to give you a bit of advice here today, folks. Having a bad manager deal is 10,000 times worse than having no manager at all in the short term. And you got to believe me on that, right? So to highlight that point, and not to pick on the person that asked the question because they are taking my advice and asking the question. I want to show you a question I got here last night from one of our members by the name of August, All right, there it is. Now, it's a much longer question than I'm going to give into, but here's the guts of it. The question was, assume a band meets a locally powerful manager that can get the band signed with free radio. But actually, you know what, Joe? I'm going to read this. Keep it up there. I'm going to read you the whole question here, folks, because it really says a lot. Assume a great band meets a locally powerful manager and a media promoter. This man can get the band signed to top labels. He can get significant free major radio airplay in large cities. He can develop your fan base without question, and he wants to be your manager. The question was, oh, and also he goes, and he will ask for the sky in terms of his cut of gross band earnings. How far do you go before walking away? 25, 40%? Is there a rule of thumb here, okay? August? Are you fucking kidding me here? Now, I'm not trying to pick on you, but I'm going to shake you by the neck and rattle your freaking cage because I want you to know how serious I am right here, okay? We came up with this course of mine, RenmanU course, for folks like this because it becomes obvious to me that people, they just don't really understand how this business goes. Joe, I want you to show them the course graphic there. We got it. No, there you go. I came up with a course, August, called How to Learn the Music Business, okay? It's an insider's guide, which means it's not theory, it's not academia, it's experience, okay? One of the modules in that course, we cover all the major areas of the business, but one of the most important ones that's worth watching is our manager module. Show that, Joe. In that manager module, we talk about all kinds of issues related to managers because it is so freaking important if you're going to succeed. One of the things we talk about, if you look down at the bottom, are management terms, management commissions, management termination, and the management contract, okay? But I'm going to give you some advice right now because you haven't looked at the course, but you really should look at it. Come back to me, Joe. This gentleman says that he can get you signed to top labels. Now, I'm going to play you, and we're having this conversation. Wow, that's fucking awesome, big-time manager. Who are some of the bands you've worked with? And he tells you or doesn't tell. If he doesn't tell you, not a good start. He says, you know, that he can guarantee building a fan base. He can guarantee getting you on the radio. And you go, and I'm going, wow, that's fucking awesome, man. How do you do that? Okay, I thought radio was a big mess, okay? And I thought you had to pay. I thought you had to do all these different things here. And I talked to this guy, Renman, who's been a manager his whole life, when he said that you could do it without question. Steve Rennie now feels like the dumbest man on the planet because I'm thinking, oh, there's all kinds of questions, okay? Doubt and fear in the real music business, right? And so he says, you will ask for the sky in terms of his gross band earnings. Are you negotiating or he's negotiating, okay? You're checking your head at the door, August, okay? So here's my answer to your question. The general rule of thumb is 15 to 20%, okay? When you do get a management agreement and put it in front of you, you need to get with a real music business attorney here. You need to ask questions because what's going to happen now, August, is you're going to get lost in the who of my manager instead of what a manager should be doing, what it is you should be looking for. So you need to do some homework. We've got a PDF, do we not, Ev?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, that's going to help you understand the what. Not the who. I'm not interested in the freaking who. That's going to come after you understand what it is a manager should be providing. This guy laid out some of it. Now you need to ask, has he actually done it? Does he have experience? Does he have track record that you can go Google, okay, and find out if this guy's legit, okay? That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Okay, now, I want to talk about, does that answer the question, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
All right, good. Am I scaring people? I'm sorry. How are we doing in the chat room there, Ev? Okay, on time. We got what do we got? 10:30. We're actually doing good here today.
We have another question in the chat room.
Oh, we have another question? Fire. Is that on target here?
It's not exactly related, but you want me to go for it anyways?
Yeah, let's take a chance. Let's reward some folks for showing up here.
It's just
Good
about
questions, folks. I'm going to give you another thing. If I get all harassed because you asked me some question that's a million miles wide, like, dude, how do I get big in the music business? I'm going to refer you back to that email. Go ahead. What's the question, Ab?
it's just it's about how to manage your business taxes and bookkeeping. Like, what are some tips for that?
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
All right,
okay,
well then,
we're going to talk
cool.
about that in a minute, okay? But good question. I like where you're going with that, okay? But let's talk about something else. I mentioned that I think you need to be, if you're going to be successful selling records, you need to focus on making music, right? And you need to let other folks focus on the marketing and promotion that do that every day, that spend their whole lives doing that. And while it doesn't guarantee success, it guarantees they know what to do, right? So this idea of pitching labels, if you're making music and want to be big, you'll need, at the very least, and I'm not going to focus on not who the label is going to be. I'm going to focus on what the label needs to do. They need to be well-funded. They need to have money, because it costs money, and I'm sure all you indie artists out there are shaking your head going, yeah, fuck yeah, it costs a lot of money, Steve. I don't have any money. Come on, I've worked with musicians my whole life. I understand they're either nowhere or they got a lot of money or no money, okay? Your label needs to have great connections in the music business, at radio, at iTunes, all the key media outlets. You want to know that they have a relationship there. So being well-connected is hugely important. They'll need to have an infrastructure, a well-developed label system. What do I mean by that? That means if they've got offices in Europe, if they got offices in Australia, if they got offices in Japan, if they got branches all around America, that makes it easier for them to do business on a worldwide basis. And remember, if you want to get big, it's not just big in America anymore, it's big around the world, okay? And so if you're going to spend all your time trying to get a distribution deal for America, and then you got to do it in England, and then you got to do it in Belgium, and then you got to do it in Spain and Italy, there ain't enough time in the day. You'll never write another song in your life, okay? So this idea of pitching labels is an important one, and I hope I've kind of given you some insight on this myth between the indie vibe, I want to do it on my own, and the realities of doing it. We had a question here from one of our again, another one of our RenmanU renegades who purchased our course. I had a chance to talk to him. We offered a special deal, which I'm going to offer to you later today, folks. This gentleman, Jan Powers, right? Yep. Is a great young manager from Iowa, very energetic guy. He took the course. We had a chance to spend 30 minutes on a Skype call, so I had a chance to really talk shop with him. And I was so impressed with him that I wanted to ask his question here today. Throw it up on the screen, Joe. Jan, it says, I'm currently shopping a band's new record and email responses have been slow. I'm trying to establish new relationships. And when do I talk to someone, well, when I do talk to someone, what is the best way to handle the call? Okay? Good question here. And again, that email is going to, that PDF we're going to send you, or make it, you can download, is going to give you some thoughts about how to encourage somebody to actually get you on a call. And one of the elements of that email is make sure you tell somebody when you write that email what you want them to do. In this case, Jan's going to say, I'd love to get on a call with you to talk about my band, right? And so he's now succeeded, and now he's on that call. Here's what you need to think about, Jan. You already know the answer to this, okay? It's all the stuff that you put in those emails before. You're going to present some music, and they probably would have heard the music by now, okay? If they haven't, and you're living in the same city, or your band is touring in one of those major areas where there's A&R people, you're going to invite them to the show. You're going to have some thought now, because now you're going to ask this guy for a record deal, okay? So hopefully, Jan, you've looked at that whole section on record labels, how they work, how record contracts work. Hopefully, you've taken my advice and you've got an attorney ready to go on this, because you're going to tell them the things that you think it's going to take to help build the band. So if it's a touring band, you're going to say, I need a partner that can help me with tour support. If you believe the band needs to be on a specific format, that they have a special, you're going to remind them of that. In effect, what you're going to do, Jan, is tell them their story, okay? You're going to put yourself in the shoes of this person that wants to be in business, and you're going to convince him that it's a great idea to write a check to support all this stuff. You're going to convince him that the people that he's writing that check to are equally committed. That means the manager's going to do the work. That means the band's going to do the work. That you're going to try to work in partnership, not as adversaries, to make something happen. The the upshot of it is when you make that call and you get that call, Jan, you should know the band story cold. You should have put yourself in that person's shoes and make believe that Jan Powers was the A&R person and what would it take to convince you to sign that band. But more than anything, you need to be prepared, my friend. You can't be winging it. Don't be wasting anybody's time. You go bang, 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 and ask for something. Are we going to make a record deal? What's the next step? You know, do you need to see the band? Keep the conversation engaged. And that, if you get to that call, I know you're going to do great, Jan, because I've already talked to you, but that's what you need to do. You need to be prepared because now you're there trying to close, you're trying to nurture that relationship, and now you have a great start because you got a phone call back. So that's like a sales lead, and now you got to nurture that lead to a record deal. All right? Does that answer the question there, Joe? Oh, yeah, Joe says. Okay. Now, we got a few more minutes before we get to Plen. Okay. Here's one for you, folks. Again, I'm not going to cover everybody's questions today, but I'm going to cover some ones that I hope get you off to a good start in 2016. I just told you that if you want to get a record deal, you're going to need to pitch these labels. We've given you some hints about how to do it. I just gave some advice to Jan, and it'll apply to all you folks as well. And we also talked about desperation out there, okay? Here's some reality, folks. On the internet, there are all kinds of freaking internet predators out there, people that pretend to be experts that have no experience at all, people who, if you type their name into Google, it wouldn't show up anywhere, okay? So if that's the case and they're purporting to be a record industry professional, you know, then get rid of them. Okay, they're not worth doing it. So I want to show you an email exchange that I got from one of our fans on, there you go. Look at that, we caught him in the act. We're trying to, I like that window look back there, folks, but we do get better light. Okay, Joe, put that up on the screen for me, right? This was an email exchange from one of our members by the name of Rise Over Envy is the name of the band, right? Or artist or management company. I'm not exactly sure. Sent me an email going, hey, Rennie, I got this email from some guy at Columbia Records, right? And I thought maybe it was a scam. And if you can't read it, I'll give you the gist of it. This guy, David Aronson, purportedly, but by the way, that's not who it is, from Columbia Records said, hey, my name's Dave Aronson. I work for Columbia Records in the A&R department. So now if I'm an artist, I'm going, fuck yeah, Columbia Records, they got me on their radar. And he says, I came across your music and I was so very impressed. Would you like to submit a demo with us? I look forward to hearing back from you, right? Signed, David Aronson at Columbia Records. Now, here's for the really keen eye here. If you've ever dealt with Sony Music, they don't have a ColumbiaRecords.com, much less a ColumbiaRecords.co email address. You folks are internet savvy. When you see a bullshit email, then you should be suspicious. Everything at Sony or at Columbia Records and Epic Records is SonyMusic.com. Anyway, the kid responds back. He's all stoked, says, hey, great. You know, then now we get into the scam. Punchline of this is that this guy, David Aronson, is providing an opportunity, come back to me, Joe, for $49, just a mere $49, he's going to let you submit your music to be part of the database of Columbia Records. Here's my advice, folks, okay? You saw it before. Are you fucking kidding me, man? Don't believe that shit, okay? Here's the deal. Experience in this business is easy to identify. Google the name of the person that's purporting to tell you what it is that your new special offer is. Take the advice your parents gave you a long time ago. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. There's all kinds of people trying to get their hand in your pocket. And by the way, I'm one of them too, right? You got to buy my course. The difference is this, okay? Experience matters. You can test experience. That promoter guy, that manager that wanted to tell you about all the things he could do for you, if you didn't check, if you didn't go and test it out and see if what they were saying was true, then you're not going to succeed in this business. You're like a lamb going to slaughter here. So there's my little bit of advice for you today. Do we have Plen on the phone yet? Or should I keep rocking here? Any questions in the chat room? Have I scared the crap out of everybody yet?
Any more questions? Yeah, there's another question.
Okay, fire away. That's our scam alert for the day. If it's too good to be true, it probably is, okay? But do your homework. All these guys making promises and all these internet experts, okay? Do your homework. Be suspicious. If you see my stuff, go check my stuff out. Don't be an idiot, okay? Next.
This guy was talking about
Does
booking.
this guy have a name?
No, it's another. Actually, wait, Brian from Streetlight Cadence. That's
Okay.
that's what it is.
Brian.
He's asking about booking his band in other countries and where to start. Do you start at major labels? You start at booking/promotion group?
He's talking about booking a live concert?
No, he's trying to book his band in a different country, specifically Japan.
Okay.
And he's asking where does he start to look at booking his band in those countries.
If you're looking to book concerts, right? All the big successful acts, by and large, okay, have a U.S. agent for sure, right? And many of those big U.S. agencies now have affiliate offices in the U.K., right? And for years when I worked with bands, we had a U.S. agent, and typically we had an agency that was based in Europe, and that was always, in my case, in London, right? And when you were booking shows outside your home country, that international agent was the one that made the calls, right? But we're going to talk a little bit more. Did we talk about it on the touring side of this? I think we got one coming up down here. We're going to talk about touring a bit, right? The punchline is you got to have something going in your home market, right, to drive a live business, okay? If, let's imagine you hadn't played a lot of gigs anywhere, right? But you had a great song that got on the radio in the UK, or in this case, got on the radio in Japan. I guarantee if you're getting heard on the radio, okay, that you're going to get some gigs here. If you're not getting heard on the radio, it's a little bit trickier, right? So I would ask why you're going to those markets. What suggests in those other markets that you're going to do some business, right? And if there are some things going on in those markets, Ryan, you got airplay, something big is happening, that's part of your story to an international agent. Because remember, nobody wants to book your first gig. They don't want to put out, people want to see if they can get the fruit when it's ripe off the trees, you know. So you're going to have to do some of that work. And ultimately what attracts everybody's attention in this business, undeniable songs, maybe something that maybe is not totally undeniable, but there's starting to be proof that people like it. You got a ton of SoundCloud views. You're drawing 1,000 people in your home market. You're the Dave Matthews Bands. You're drawing 1,000 people at colleges all across the, you know, the eastern seaboard, right? So that when people at record companies are trying to judge, okay, I like this song, I'm not quite sure, but you're showing some signs that people like it, that'll get you a look. And it's the same everywhere, folks. And I think for you folks where you're going, oh, this is pretty freaking obvious, old man. It is obvious, okay? Put yourself in the shoes of those people. Somebody's going to book you in Japan. Why is he going to book you? Okay? Oh, we're a really good band. We always wanted to play in Japan. Yeah, I'm not thinking that's enough, okay? That's what I'm thinking, okay? So that's what you got to think about. You need some activity that's going to support it. And building a live business is great. Building a live business with airplay is even better. But, you know, if you can just show some buzz somewhere, folks, that real people, not your mom and your dad, but real people are plugging into what you're doing, you're going to find you have a lot more success out there, okay? That answer that question? All right, let's get Michael. Let me know when you got Michael Plen on the phone here, guys. Let's stay. Is he not answering yet?
Not yet, no.
See, we got a question. We'll come back to. Look at that little dog over in the corner. I didn't notice Bucket slipped in there. We're slipping away from that. Okay, back to camera one, Joe. Be a director over there. Okay, come on. Let's go back. We're talking about touring. Let me go to the skip ahead one question here. You know, building a touring business is obviously a key part of a career. And the beauty about building a live business is that your live business, if you've written a lot of hits, can last a lot longer than your live business or than your hit-making career. You got Plen on the phone? Okay, we got Plen right now. Okay, should we come back then?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, we got Plen.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what we're going to hold that thought, folks, because I've got on the phone with us. We're going to talk about radio, and then we're going to come back to this touring one. Okay, let me go set this one up a little bit. As we mentioned at the top, we were talking about Spotify and streaming services and YouTube and all these different places that you can hear music today that weren't around 10, 15 years ago, right? And I've kind of grew up in the traditional side, so I've come to appreciate how many new places there are to hear music, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, what have you. But when all is said and done, I was having this debate with some young tech guy the other day. In today's world, in the here and now, for the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the best way to stand out from the crowd around the world is to get played on real radio stations, right? And it's not easy to do, but if you can get it done, that's how you get big. So today, we had a question regarding radio, and I spent a lot of time talking with promotion folks over the years and disagreeing with promotion folks. One of my favorite promotion guys is a gentleman by the name of Michael Plen. He's worked at a ton of big labels, including Virgin Records, and I had a chance to work with him there. And he worked at, oh God, I'm blanking on it, so many labels that I'm losing my mind. Anyway, the last time I had a chance to work with Michael was at Ingrooves when Brandon Boyd put out a solo record. I managed to steal him out of a meeting here, so I want to get him on the phone before we go. And then I'm going to post this question here, okay? First up, Plen, you there? You got a minute? Put us in the broadcast there. Michael Plen, you there?
Yes, I am here.
All right, there's the Mr. Plen, the famous Michael Plen here. Plen and Ren. I think there's a radio show on it for us here, Plen.
Let's scope it out.
We'll do our demo right here. Michael, so first off, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to go and help us. For all you folks that are just learning the record business, if this was on Tuesday, no chance I get a hold of Michael Plen because he's out there digging for ads. But on Wednesday, the smoke. How'd you do this week, Plenster?
You know, the reality is today's record business for Tuesdays are still what are considered ad days, but you know, every day of the week you're having to track somebody down because by the time they have to make a decision on Tuesday, they might have started by having decision meetings on Thursday or Wednesday. So Tuesday's sort of the culmination, but how did I do? It was a battle every step of the way.
And by the way, Michael's underselling it's a battle every day. When I used to work in the record business, on Wednesday we used to have a label meeting at Sony. We called it the label beating, and the promotion guys get the freaking brunt of it. So I admire you for even doing this, Michael. We had a question today from one of our members that had a question about radio, and I thought it would be great to get a real expert into the conversation. So let me post that question. I'll read it for you, Mr. Plen. It was from one of our members by the name of RJ, and his question was, how helpful are college radio stations in building a brand? Do larger stations ever look to college radio when figuring out what they should play? Mr. Plen, thoughts?
The answer is unequivocally yes. They are important. The definition of a college station, I think, has changed quite a bit in 40 years as they evolved. When I worked, my first job was at a college station, being the music director. The fact is, we had an 80-mile signal. So that stretched from Hartford, Connecticut to Springfield. So when we played records, things started happening. Tickets got sold. Records got sold. Bands built bigger profiles. And the next thing you know, the record labels were coming to me going, hey, you got a station that's moving the needle. And usually they were on the non-commercial frequency, below 92 on the dial. And then, you know, as it got on, and I went, like, say, in my IRS days, REM was the definitive college band. College radio broke them. The commercial stations weren't playing them. Regular stations didn't want to play them, but college radio took them on and made them a big success. And now as you jump forward to now, you know, there are a lot of college stations. They may be based on a campus, whether they're college radio. KCRW in L.A. is probably... I was going to say
KCRW here in L.A. is a big one.
There you get a record played on KCRW. Not only are you just getting it played in L.A., you're getting it played by maybe 20 different tastemakers who work at the station, who are in advertising, film supervision, on top of the fact that they have all great taste. And then you never know who in L.A. hears that music. Same thing with an FUV in New York or a WXPN. You know, they're all affiliated with colleges or non-commercial bands. NPR as a element in radio, KEXP, the University of Washington, college radio, hands down. means something. Does it mean something to be number one at the top of the college charts? It might be another, guerrilla chest banging moment, but the reality is how's it doing at specific college radio stations and specific markets? Absolutely is essential.
Let me ask you another question there. So many of these artists are not going to have the benefit of having an experienced person like yourself working at experienced companies that have money to spend. What are some of the things that an independent artist that might have a great song but doesn't have a big checkbook to go, how best for them to approach college radio? Can they do it on their own? Do they need to hire a promotion person or an indie promotion like you and I have done so many times over the years?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the biggest thing that gets the tastemakers and the people that can get a record on a KCRW or an XPN in Philly is the first and foremost is if what you're doing in the marketplace is moving the marketplace. They're going to take notice if it's a big enough noise. Mm-hmm. If it's not a big enough noise, but it's a noise, like you notice you went from 5 people to 100 people playing to 300 people, that might be something brewing. That's the kind of thing you can in the guys that program XPN in Philly, there's a music director, there's an assistant program director, there's a general manager, there's a morning show lady. They all have their fingers in music, and you could just get it to them. They're not unapproachable. You may be amongst a sea of other things, but the fact is, locale is key. If you're a local Philly artist, make sure you really just go dig in and cover every possibility that you can do in Philadelphia. If you're not, then you just have to figure out where you are, you got to be ballsy. Don't be afraid to make a cold call. Leave messages. A lot of times, people read emails, never respond to you, but you don't know really. I guess you could put that little click on your email that shows if they read it, or it could end up in spam. But the fact is, they are making them. They want to find the next thing. There are some people that still want to be the next discoverer. And
I'll tell you this, folks. Plen has always been that guy. Plen has always been one of those tastemaker guys. Oops, we lost. There we go. Who's always been out there finding that stuff and so forth. So, hey, you know what, Michael? I'd love to have you back on the show when we got a whole lot of time to talk about the radio thing, because there's so many nuances of it and so many things that somebody like yourself that's been doing this for a long time, you take instinctively some of these other folks could learn from. But if you had any parting shots for folks as they're looking at trying to get their songs on radio, any pep talk you want to give them in 30 seconds or less, what would it be? I know what mine would be.
I guess I would say make sure that the music you're making is something that is not geared to trying to fit into a format. Trying to do something that's brilliantly unique, maybe a tougher climb, but a better, but at the end of the day, it separates you out from everybody else who's really trying to do something formatically. Like, well, I want to have a pop hit. I'll make a pop record. Just make a great record. Yeah. Make sure your songwriting's good. Make sure your performance is good. Make sure you can back it up with a live show. Sometimes, if you're a performing artist, try to get an agent. If you're not a performing artist, then you know what? Try to go to places where you know these people will be, where you can hand them something. The world of music supervision is definitely a big highway to and that's cross-pollinated between people who are on the air and people who are supervising shows. Get music to them. Make sure that you can be in control of your publishing and master. So if a music supervisor calls you and says, "Hey, I want to use that song in House of Lies," you don't have to call somebody up 5 different places just to get an approval. You can say, yes, I'll take that for X amount of dollars. Yeah, so
that's solid
just
advice.
Stay fluid and be aggressive, but don't be cocky and arrogance. There's a fine line between the Kanye cocky and the, you know, the sincerity of like, I'm really good at what I'm doing and I'm proud of it, and you really need to take another look or listen. And don't be afraid to hear no a lot. No just means you take a step back, take a deep breath, and find it and think about another entryway in.
Perfect.
There's been plenty of times I've heard no, and you look around and go, who else is involved in this decision? I'll go there. And then before you know it, the no becomes a yes, and you're like, how did you get there? It's like persistence.
That is the most solid advice. We talk about it all the time here. It only takes a couple great yeses to make a huge difference. And take it from my friend Mr. Plen here, who's heard a whole ton of no's, but he's gotten some amazing yeses that made some careers. Michael, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us here today. I want to have you back again where we can spend a little bit more time, and we're going to show pictures of when Michael and I had hair. And if you guys thought this was easy, we'd still have it, okay? Michael, thanks so much for calling, and best of luck this week, and say hello to all the folks over there at In-Grooves, which, by the way, folks, if you're looking for, you got a great record and you want to kind of go the quasi-indie route with some real professionals on board, I would recommend, in the strongest terms, In-Grooves is be on your list of options there. So.
I mean, that's what we do, and myself included, has been to take artists from nowhere to getting them somewhere. And first of all, I want to say thank you, Renman, for having me on. But if the two most succinct comments I can tell you is my first two jobs in the business were to get into a van with a band called The Police and a band called REM when nobody was seeing them, and say, figure out how to help make these guys find you know, a fan base. I was one of the few that had the early chance to do that. So,
and I'll do a shameless plug for one of our very first guests on the show was a gentleman by the name of Jay Boberg, folks, and you should go watch that interview. And right here, Mr. Plen was one of Jay's soldiers out there on the battlefield banging the drum. Michael, I'm going to let you get back to work before I get a call from the boss going, what the fuck are you doing with my employees here, Rennie? Michael, have a great week. Thanks so much, and have a great Happy New Year, my friend. Okay, that was it. That was good. I always love talking to these promo dudes. How are we doing on time here? We got about 5 minutes. Okay, God, we didn't get through it. How are we doing in the chat room? Everybody still there?
There's another question if you want.
Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of these. What was the question on? Is it? We'll go an extra 15 minutes. Evan, how long can you stay? 11, 15?
Max.
Okay, go. Let's go. Fire away. Who's that question from?
Okay, the question, there's no name on the question, but the question is, do you think it's best to try and get radio play immediately after you release a new song, or should you wait and try to gain local interest first and then try and submit to radio afterwards?
I'm a big fan of getting going because it's probably, as Mr. Plen just said, you're probably going to hear a bunch of no's, right? In a perfect world, you'd orchestrate everything so that it was an idiot-proof, you know, yes, but it doesn't really work that way. So my advice in general, folks, is make great music first and then figure out how to get it heard. Radio's a part of it. You're going to need to go out and send emails. You're going to need to send out your information and your story to 1 million people. So it's going to take some homework and everything. So my advice would be, when you've made that music, don't feel compelled to put it out right away. Do what the big labels do. The music arrives 90 to 120 days before anybody ever hears it on radio, sees it in a store, sees it in the press, because it's called setup time, right? So don't take my advice where you just do it right off the fly like I do with this show. I'm going to say don't take my advice. Take the time to make great music, then take the time to spend on getting a little bit of a plan together here to do that. If that makes some sense, all right? Okay, so Joe, I'm going to go back to a couple other ones here. We talked about the live touring business and why it's so important, because so many times if you've had a bunch of songs on the radio and you've built a terrific live business, okay, when those hits are long gone, you can still be out there playing dates to play those songs that you heard that made you a big hit. So we had a question here today that from one of our members by the name of Don Borza about a band just starting off. Take it away, Joe. With the growing importance of social media, is it worth a young band to tour small venues and lose money, or should they focus on their hometown and let social media drive new fans? That's a great question, Don, and here's what I'm going to say. you know, you got to own your hometown. You got to ask yourself, if I play gigs in my hometown and nobody shows up, or if I play and there's 10 people at a gig and the next time it's 6, and the next time it's 4, and the next time it's nobody, that's not suggesting that everything about your live show is terrific. If you don't live in a city, right, where there's a local music scene, I hear this all the time, then move to a city where there is a local scene. Joe Pepe over here moved from North Carolina to L.A. There was a music scene in North Carolina. There's no shortage of a music scene out here in L.A., but when Joe's got some gigs booked, when you go out and start playing gigs, if you're great, if you really are a terrific performer, somebody's going to tell their friend, God, did you see that freaking band here last night? I'm going to come back and see them again. That's how it really happens, folks, right? And so if it's not happening, okay, you got to pay attention to that feedback, okay? So anyway, that's the deal. I want to tell them to hang on 1 second. There's a couple other things that have happened over the course of the last few years, which I wanted to mention today. Come to me on IVGA Net 1, Joe. There's some sites out there. You know, you got it, Joe? Net 1? Okay, there you go. There are a couple of great places that I've come to. Your online concert venue. One of my favorites is a place called Stage It, right? Now, these are mostly artists up there. Some ones you have from Jason Mraz and Bonnie Raitt and Korn. Wow, Jesus Christ, they got Jimmy Buffett did a Stage It concert. All right, well, proving the point that this idea of Brandon Boyd, I see down there in the corner. Let me put his shining mug up there a little bit. There you go. Brandon Boyd did a stage concert. This idea of doing what I used to call bedroom concerts, where you do a show, kind of a stripped-down version of your show. If you have some audience to preach to, if it's 100 or 200 people, and they're really into what you're doing, do an online concert from your bedroom, from your living room, from your rehearsal room. People are doing it, and some of these people are actually making money doing this. I'm not going to tell you how much Brandon made, but it wasn't like doing an Incubus gig, but real money came in. And so you can do that, and that concert in your room now has the potential to be seen in a bunch of other places. Another one of my favorites is if you book a gig in the Chicago area. There's a site called audiotree.tv, one of my favorite sites, where they do tons of live performance, and they record it for cameras in stunning quality, right? So if you're going through that market and you can touch base with these folks, one gig will get you a lot more mileage here. Now, they've had some big bands on here now, but it's primarily independent bands, okay? So there's some thoughts on that. Who's on that phone with us, Joe? Hopefully that answers questions and gives you some thought. How did I do, Joe? Is that right? All right.
Kyle from Landenberg, Pennsylvania.
Which, okay, oh, Cal from Landenberg, PA.
Hey,
How you doing, Cal? Oh,
I'm
Kyle,
great. How are you, man?
Kyle, do you mind if I call you Kyle?
Kale. That's the same thing. Kale, Kyle.
Yeah, that's all I say. Just call me, right? What's your question,
What's
Kyle?
that? All right, so I've been wondering this for a while, actually. At what point in an artist's career does it make realistic and beneficial sense to become an official business entity? For example, an LLC or incorporation, or that would be a little far-fetched.
Well, Kyle, I just want you to know, Kyle, your timing is impeccable, right? Because we were just about...
Was that coming up next?
That was the next one.
Did I get it?
That was the next one. And
I knew it.
In the great show business tradition of timing and lighting, bang!
Oh, you know it,
Kyle.
You know me.
There you go. I keep talking about this course of mine, not just because I'm trying to suck $99 out of your pocket, okay, but because it's so important, some of the elements of that course that people need to know. And one of those elements we have in the course, we do a whole section on treating your career as a business, right? And the question
I just watched that last night, actually.
Yeah, the question you're asking, it speaks to that whole issue of, one thing, you got to have great music, right? But if you took care of the music and didn't take care of the business, trust me, you will be fucking disappointed in the end in ways that you can't.
Believe me, I figured that one out like a year ago.
Okay, so you got burned and you learned a lesson, right, Kyle?
Hey, that's all you can do from mistakes.
Okay, well, let me give you a little bit of side advice here. If you want to move ahead in the business world, any place, new mistakes. You don't make the same stupid mistake twice. We do them all day long in here. We almost sunk the ship today by, putting a new landing page for my site that's in process because I got impatient. But anyway, let me answer your question. When is the best time to set up some of these business things, right? You could spend a whole lot of time incorporating and with the LLC and incorporating and getting your business cards and all that shit together, right? And it makes you feel good, right? And then you change your mind, you go, I'm not really going to do this, and you wasted a lot of money. All right, so to answer your question, the best time to start really putting that stuff together, are you in a band or do you manage a band?
Both. I'm kind of taking the DIY route until I kind of.
But I've talked you out of that. I've talked you out of that DIY thing as a career move, right? That's a necessity move today, right?
Yeah, it's just I've realized that I kind of have to take management into my own hands right now. Like I've booked tours. I was on Warped Tour actually last summer, and kind of just been trudging along here. And the reason I'm asking this is because I work with this. I don't know if you've heard of Launch Music Conference. It's this big music conference in Lancaster. And I've been helping with that, just kind of like getting my foot in the door a little bit. And the owner of the record label that runs it asked me if I'd taken my band Entropy and if it was an LLC or anything of the sort. And I was kind of just like thought about it. I was like, I don't really know when I should do that. Like, I know you can get tax cuts and whatnot from being a business, like if you buy a van or something, but
yeah, here's what I'm going to tell you.
I was just trying to figure out like the ideal time there.
Big picture. First off, ideal time. Get rid of that fucking ideal time in the music. There's nothing perfect about life, folks, and there's nothing perfect about the business, world. Okay, here's my advice. When you start to look at real money coming in, right? When you buy that van, now you have an asset. And when you start to ask yourself, what would happen if we broke the band up? Would there be a big freaking argument about who owns the van? Probably, right?
Yeah.
If you bought some road cases, well, that was my road case. That would suggest that you need some rules of engagement, and that's what all these agreements are really all about, right? When you start to make money, there are tax implications. When you're making no money, there are no tax implications, right? So when at the prospect that you're really going to start to make some money, or you're going to go out and start transacting business that could create some liabilities for you, right? Now, I'm not an expert on business organizations, but limited liability corporations have to do with exactly what the name suggests, limiting your liability. So a corporation shields you from certain assets. And I'm going to tell all of you something here, that my knowledge of all these things is practical in reality, based in the sense that I've become familiar with all these things because I've run an artist business. But I'm not an expert on every single element. So whenever we've put these things together for Incubus or any of the clients that I managed over the years, we got with professionals, right? Professional accountants. And the music business is typically the business manager, right? But not every business manager is a CPA, know that, right? We would get a music business attorney that has set up these kind of entities for artistic organizations, right? If you were going to go do a corporate merger, you wouldn't talk to your music business attorney about that. So the answer to your question is you should set it up when there's some prospect of money. Setting up ahead of time, I get worried that somebody will change their mind or something. But at the first sign of real business, Kyle, right? That's when you should set some of these things up, right? And it's so important to set up because I've said it before, when you get into partnerships, when you get into agreement, it's so much easier to get into these agreements than it is to get out of them, that it's worth taking the time up front to get it right.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, like I said, thank you so much for answering that. That was actually a good answer.
All right, now let me ask you something, Kyle. Have you bought our course yet? Have you seen our course?
I did, and I have a Skype call for you, with you.
There you have it, folks. All right. So you've actually started the course?
Yeah.
All right, good. Is it helping you out,
I've just been trudging along on it.
Is it helping you out?
Great job on it, by the way. It's really, down to earth. There's a lot of people out there that are play the role of
you can say it. Yeah. There's a lot of experts out there, man. And it's funny. Every time somebody sends me one of these experts, Kyle, you know what I do? And I'd suggest all you guys do it? I Google
them. Yeah.
And if there's no Google results, I'm going to be suspicious.
Then they're a fraud,
Call me
most
Cookie.
likely.
All right. Well, anyway, Kyle, when is our? Well, I won't bore you. I'll look at my calendar. I will tell you ahead of time if you get that Skype call. By the way, Joe, put it up there, Evan. Throw it in there. We're going to offer that same deal that Kyle got here. You buy our course today, and there's going to be a link in the player here. I will give you a 30-minute Skype call where you can ask me anything you want about the music business. And Kyle and I are going to have some fun because I'm betting that Kyle's got a whole shit pile of questions he's going to ask me.
I've already started.
Okay, good, because we're going to talk shop. And when you're done, Kyle, I think you're probably already getting a hint of it right now. We're going to have a conversation about the real music business, not some bullshit fairy tale version, right? You know, that's for your mom and your dad, and for all you folks who want to have a blue blankie, you came to the wrong place here today. All right?
A blue blankie.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Anyway, well, Kyle, thanks so much for calling in today, and I appreciate your support and look forward to speaking to you soon here, man.
You as well.
Make sure you accept me as a Skype friend, okay?
I will.
You got it.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks so much, man. All right, Joe, that was good. Nice work over there today, gentlemen. All right, let's see if we got a couple other quick ones here to go through. Let's go to that copyright question, Joe. Got a couple quick ones here, and then we got. I often have to send songs to artists who work on. How do I ensure that they won't take my work, Ren? How should I copyright the songs before sending them? My fear is that it could get costly either every song I send out. Thanks, Ren. Joe, you're a musician. You write songs. Talk to me briefly. 30 seconds, 60 seconds, copyright. Got to hook himself up.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, it's pretty simple. In the past, I would just, when everything's done, when you have a set of songs that you like, I would copyright them. So in this particular person, it sounds like they send out tracks a lot to different artists. I would get 12 tracks that you like and submit them to the copyright
office.
Oh, thank you, sorry. And it's super easy. Just Google copyright.gov. It'll come right up for whatever country you're in. Usually they have a copyright office. And I think it's $25 or $30 for a set of songs.
For a set of songs. So if you've got an album, you can do it. Now, let me ask you this, Joe. Let's see if we're all paying attention here. Does copywriting your songs guarantee that nobody might borrow something?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay, that was that whole Marvin Gaye, you know, blurred lines deal here. So, but it starts with taking care of business, and it gets back to that whole idea of treating your career as a business. Take care of the business because contracts, folks, don't necessarily protect you from stupidity. They lay the ground rules for how you're going to solve the stupidity. That's my son going to college. Fight on, SC. All right. All right, we got a free staff here. This is very cozy here, folks, at the Ren headquarters. Good advice here, Joe.
Thanks.
And by the way, folks, technically speaking, if you go to our course, you'll notice, or you'll know that as soon as you write a song and write it down somewhere, right, and you record it to your iPhone, that technically qualifies as a copyright. But going the extra step to document it and memorialize it is a good one. In the off chance that somebody decides to do something nefarious, is one of my favorite CNN guys says. Okay, that was the copyright. Negotiation strategies. Let's fire that one up real quick. Okay, what are some key techniques or strategies in negotiating on behalf of your artist in deals or gigs? Let me go down to that. Let me go. Bang. Okay. Thank you, Steve, for all your blood, sweat, and tears. I appreciate that, honestly. Some good manners makes me feel good. Okay, here's a couple things. First off, if you're going to be negotiating with real players in the business, you've got to have a pretty clear idea and understand that you better have some product, okay? Some music, performances if you're looking for gigs, you know, or whatever it might be, that attracts the attention of the people that you might negotiate. So I'm going to assume that we've got that and we're now at the point of trying to get a great deal. The best advice I could tell you is have a great team negotiating on your behalf. That means a great manager. That means a great lawyer. And again, back to our course, if you want to get some big picture overview on this so that you can ask better questions, we talk about having that team together. We talk about the lawyer and what all those people do. But having a great team of negotiators on your side is key to that, right? When you're going into any negotiation, whether it's, you know, for a gig or whether a record deal or whatever it might be, it's been my experience that you have to have a very clear idea of what you're looking to get out of that deal. And an even more clear sense that if you don't get it, why you're going to say no. And the reason you're going to say no is because saying yes isn't going to solve your problems, right? And I've found that so often in the real world, a well-considered no often gets you a better yes when somebody comes around to your point of view, right? But the most important thing I'll tell you is that if it doesn't add up for you, right, that manager that you were talking about, we were talking about at the top. If it turns out that guy was all great story and no action, you got to be able to say no in spite of how desperate you are to find a manager or to find a record deal, right? So understanding this, you'll hear me say it over and over, understanding the what of a situation is so important to guide you on the details of it. So if you don't have an idea of what you're looking for in any of these deals, it'll come across and you won't make a very great deal. But to capsulize it, have a great product that somebody's interested in. Get a great team negotiating on your behalf. Understand very clearly what it is you're looking for, and understand and accept that if you don't get that, much as you hate to say no, no is the right answer. And if you do that right, more often than not, if you have the great product, if you have a great team, and you said no for all the right reasons for you, and remember, it's about your self-interest, that other party may take it all and say, you know what, I'll make a concession, and you wind up making a deal, okay? There you have it. Joe, we're at 11:15. I think we're going to wrap it up here. You know, there were lots of questions that I didn't get to this week, so I want to apologize for everybody. I want to encourage you to spend some time on RenmanMB. Now, we're going through a little bit of a makeover over the next couple weeks, but you can still get to some great content. Ask Renman questions. In our player, if you click on that Ask Renman channel, all kinds of questions have already been answered for you. If you click in the Renman U channel there, you'll be lots of thoughts about why our course might be a great way for you to invest a little bit of money in your career, right? And understand this music business from the big picture, from the eye of an experienced professional. I kid about it, but I'm not really kidding. When you get done with that course of mine, you're going to be thinking like a grizzly old veteran. If that scares you, save the 99 bucks. If that's appealing to you, take a look at it. And I'm going to encourage you to go there and take our music business IQ test, which is on Renman, www.renmanu.com. You'll have to log in there, click on the IQ test, give you a little check on what your music business IQ, and then you can take our free demo to test it out there. There were lots of questions this week about making music that we did not get answered, and to encourage you to show up next week, I'm going to tell you that we've got a great guest who's going to be here now. You want to learn how to network? Here, come and network with one of the top record producer A&R guys in the business over the last 30 years. His name is Ron Fair. He's been involved in all kinds of successful projects. He knows how to make music. He's a musician himself. He's a producer. He knows the ins and outs of record labels. So come and ask him all your questions about how to get signed, how to connect, and how to make great music. And you are going to be a lot smarter when we're done. Okay. Joe, let's go you and me on that thing. Which one is that? Joe, we're turning it into TV show producers. Is it this one? Which one is it? No, there we are.
There we go. There we go.
That's Joe Pepe right there. Learning new tricks, what it's all about, folks. You got to get out of your comfort zone. How you feeling now, Joe?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, you know, the plane got a little turbulent there, but we made it through.
I'm getting confident now.
Okay, that's Joe Pepe, professional musician first, now low-paid employee of RenmanMusicandBusiness.com. My name is Steve Rennie, and I am the grizzly old veteran of this organization. You can call me Gov, right? Anyway, we'll be back again next week. I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to thank you all for making me part of your day here. And I do encourage you to come back next week, and we'll post some stuff about how you can ask questions for Mr. Fair. My name is Steve Rennie. I am the Renman. This program is called Renman Live, and we will see you next week. If you want to learn the music business, let me be your music business mentor. When you get done with my course, you won't be thinking like some rookie getting out of college. You'll think like a grizzly music business veteran.